What's going on, traders, and welcome back to my YouTube channel as well as another YouTube video. So, as you know, on a Monday morning, I like to do a weekly outlook, which we basically go through my outlook. Wow, my outlook of the markets and what I'm looking to see happen in the markets this week, and obviously what I'm looking to do as a result of those things happening. So, I actually need to find a better way to say that, but for now, that pretty much works out. So, before we get into it, let me just throw out my little disclaimer. Remember, I'm not qualified to offer financial investment or trading advice. Everything I speak about on these videos is purely my own opinion. I'm not, I do not recommend any specific trade or action, right? If you do decide to trade with live funds, ensure you do it with cash that you are willing to risk, because the truth is you could lose your entire investment, right? The shit risky. Shit is risky, guys. Ain't playing out shit. All right, so let's get straight into the video. As you know, the format of the video, I'll basically start with the dollar index, move over to whatever else on the currency perspective, and then I will move over to the volatility indices, right, or synthetic indices. As I did mention last week, that there is gonna be some new instruments that I'm going to be adding on, right? If you look at the bottom of my screen here, you'll see that I am looking at other charts currently, right? But I'm not ready to sort of share those yet. You know, analysis is working well and stuff like that. But for now, for me to commit to making a longer video and have to monitor more charts and stuff like that, it's just not necessary, right? Because once I put the content out there, I have to sort of follow it up, you know? So I don't want to do something and then I run out of time in the future and I can't really do it. Wow, why did I just put a sell limit there? But anyway, so looking at that, let's talk about dollar index, right? I haven't necessarily done analysis on the market this week. And the reason for that is just because I was a bit busy and I wasn't able to do so. And I'm actually on my way out again now. So I don't necessarily have the time to do it, you know? So I'm going to just sort of, based on what I am looking at on a long-term perspective, I'm just basically going to break that down for you guys. As you know, on the weekly chart, right, we did speak about the weekly chart last week on the dollar index, and we did basically highlight, I think it was this range here, and I did mention that I'm looking to see it go below this low. Right now, we can see that the dollar index has gone below this low. Right? It hasn't necessarily formed a lower low, but it has gone below that low, right? So what that basically is telling me that we will be seeing a bullish week on the dollar, perhaps a bullish couple of weeks on the dollar, because it has set itself up for some bullish upside moves, right? So let's just move on from this. So I'm just gonna mark my weekly range, and that's what I basically do. Basically mark up my range. So that's the high, that's the low. Let's put that up there. Right? Actually need to rename it. Sorry, I'm very specific about how I do things. If it's not done that way, then I'm most likely not going to be as effective as I am. If you've been following me, I'm goddamn effective. Having a good morning. I haven't really slept much. So looking at that, now we've highlighted our weekly range. Let's move over to the daily chart. And let's talk a little bit about the daily chart. I haven't really shown this on the daily, have I? Daily. Sorry about this, guys. But you know, I'm actually trying. You know, in the past, I haven't been as adamant in following through in terms of the videos. Generally, when I don't have time and stuff like that, I just sort of you know, breeze by it and do something else or whatever it is, or move on and leave it out. But I'm actually trying to sort of see things through now, right? So that's why I don't want to commit to do things that I can't do. Looking at the daily, right? Let's talk about the daily. So coming off that weekly high, we can see a very clear, let me grab my pen. We can see a very clear break in market structure here, another break of another low in here, but this suffices as a break in market structure. And that tells us that that was the bearish, right? So that bearish leg, we can see right here, 1, 2, 3 hits to the bottom. That gives us some sort of a channel in here. We've got a breakout of that channel. So we should expect price to sort of come higher into here and then give us maybe a pullback, give us a pullback and continue up from there, right? So something to that effect. Apologies for my drawing, right? So looking at this right now, what am I looking at? I'm simply looking at the fact that coming off this weekly low, we did not break market structure with this first push, but we did sort of break it, if I'm thinking about it. So 1, 2, is there a high? Yeah, there is. That's the high, right? So right here, we've already got a break of market structure to the upside. What is this? What is this? What is this? Sorry, guys. Yeah, we've already got a break of market structure to the upside with this bullish candle. So we should actually expect this market. Like I said, we're full on bullish this week on dollar index. So the next couple of weeks actually, but for now, let's just stick to this week. So I'm going to mark this as the daily low, right? So that's a daily low. I'm simply just going to make sure everything is where it needs to be. This is actually taking much longer than I thought it would. Right. So, just bear with me, guys. Right. So that's a daily low. Right. Come on. Okay, so that's a daily low. Coming up that weekly low, we can see a break in market structure. It hasn't necessarily confirmed a higher high, right? But what I would be looking for is a sustained move to the upside from around this point. Moving down to the 4 hour, we can see that break and immediately price came in, reset that push to the downside. So for me right now, I'm not necessarily ready to take any sort of buys. Remember, we spoke about this push to the downside last week and then a buy from here. And that actually played out really, really nicely. So I hope you were able to take advantage of some of these moves, right? We did see this break retest. So I'm going to be looking for something like the market going sort of breaking higher if it can, break above this high, close above this high. And then when I see something like it coming back into this range, so I want something like another break perhaps to the upside. And then once it's done that, I will actually, sorry, my mistake. Because if I look at this properly, we've got a break to the upside. We've got to pull back another break to the upside from there. But this is my daily low. So I'm going to work from this point and count this as the first break to the upside, right? So I would like to see a push up, another retest into around these areas here. And then I'll be looking for something from there to go higher. Very simple, very straightforward. I hope that sort of justifies or covers everything. Moving on to the Euro USD. Actually, looking at the Euro USD, we're looking at the weekly chart. We can see the price came off this low in here to the upside, right? We can see we're at a previous high right now. So most people would be expecting something like a double top or something like that to play out, but we don't really play those games. So we're looking at this as the weekly high, even though it has not broken market structure. Bear in mind, it has not broken market structure. So that's a weekly high. All right, it hasn't broken market structure because this isn't really a high. This is basically equal wicks and then price pushed down and then pulled up into here, hasn't broken market structure. So we should expect it to give us some sort of a pull back into this range, into around 50% of this range, and then expect it to go higher from there. Let's look at the daily chart. It should basically be the same exact thing as what we can see on dollar index. And as you can see that we've got 1, 2, 3 hits to the upside, formed this high in here, failed to break market structure, and then pulled down and broke market structure with this push to the downside, right? Actually, sorry, 1, 2, 3 actually has not broken market structure, if I'm being frank, because this low here means nothing, right? So this is the low that needs to break in order for this to be a break of market structure and look for bearish momentum. But as I'm looking at this market, as I did mention, I am basically looking for downside on this because I am looking for upside on the dollar index. So let's just highlight this as our daily range. So that's our daily low. So that's our daily low, right? And then we're just going to look for this. Make it straight. Cool. So that's our daily high up in there, right? Actually, this is the daily high. So let me just set this as the daily high right here. So that's a daily high right there. All right, let's move on to the 4-hour chart. And as you can see in the 4-hour chart, coming off that daily high, you can see no break, push back higher to make a higher high, no break, pull back, and then a break of market structure here. And so this is a break of market structure here, and this is another break of market structure in here, right? So I'll be expecting something like maybe a push up into around these areas in here, right, before I look at this market going back to the downside. Simply targeting that daily range, even though I am expecting it to go much lower, we're simply forecasting for this week, right? I'm trying to get into the habit of forecasting just for this week because I have the really bad habit of forecasting for too far in the future. And then I find myself waiting for those setups and I lose sight of what's happening right now. But anyway, moving on from that, that basically covers everything I have to speak about on the dollar index and the Euro USD. Now we're actually going to move over to the synthetic indices and we're done for today. So looking at volatility 100 again, let's start on the weekly chart and let's talk about the weekly a little bit. Looking at the weekly, we can very clearly see that on here, okay, I do have analysis on here because I have on the charts that I have been trading, right? Because I have been trading over the weekend. So looking at this, we can see breaking market structure. There's our weekly low. We have not confirmed a weekly high yet, right? Because I need to see candle, candle, candle close. Once these 3 candles are closed, right, bear in mind that none of these wicks can be higher than the center wick, right? The center wick has to be the highest point of this move, right? Then I will confirm this as a swing high, then that will become my daily high and so forth and so forth, right? So that's just a little by the way. Moving on to the daily chart, right? So we know we've broken market structure on the weekly. We know we've got a weekly low. We've yet to confirm a weekly high, and we're above a previous long-term high, right? Because if you look here, this is the previous long-term high, which we've broken above, and then we're now back into that range. So when we break a high and break back into the range like that so aggressively, I'm generally looking at that as a reversal or a retracement. In this instance here, I'm looking at it as a retracement because I am currently long-term bullish on this market. I am expecting it to actually come back and take out that weekly low, right? But like I said, let's do projection for 1 week only. So looking at the daily chart, you can see in here that on the daily chart, coming off this weekly low, we had no break in daily structure, but we had a break of the structure at this point in here, coming off of this daily low in here. So that's our daily low, that's our daily high. Clearly, in terms of market structure, that's a higher low, higher high, right? So all I'm looking for now is I'm looking for a pullback, very simply, right? If that pullback leads to a reversal, coming back and taking out this weekly low, which I'm expecting it to do, then I will be holding that trade, right? If it does not, however, which I'm expecting something like maybe a pull into around here, right? And then this market will actually go up again before it drops, right? So something to that effect as well as what I'm looking at right now on volatility 100. I'm more bullish on this market than I am bearish, right? But I have to compensate for the fact that we are at a sensitive area and we're most likely going to see some downside before we see the continued sustained upside, right? Looking at the volatility 10, we can clearly see breaking market structure coming off of this weekly low, also breaking this high here. But I would consider this as the breaking market structure because I'm looking at the swing points only, right? So if I look at the swing points, then this was the last swing high that created this swing low, right? And then price now broke market structure. So we overall, as I've been saying since the beginning of the year, I'm long-term bullish. I think since last year, actually, I am long-term bullish on volatility 10. This is my upside targets, and I'm going to be looking to get into these for the remainder of this year. This is my analysis that I'm going to be trading most likely until the end of next year, if I'm being very, very frank. Looking at the daily chart, you can see that coming off that weekly break of market structure up in there, we can see that we formed this high on the daily, right? And this is our daily range, right? Very cool. So we've broken market structure here on the daily. We formed that daily high, and we can see that we're currently pulling back right now. What I am currently looking for in here, right? And this is not really my type of market that I want to trade. But what I am looking for right now is I'm looking for this market to sort of continue down into around this area here, right? Into around this area down here before I'm looking to see it perhaps maybe come back up in here and then drop down into here, right? So something to that effect is what I am currently looking at. On the daily chart, not really much I can speak about, right? Because we don't necessarily have anything sincere or anything big happening on here. Coming off this level, I would just look at this area here and this area here. These are the two key areas, excuse me. So that area right there. So once the market does hit this level in here, I'm going to be looking for something like an upside from there, right? That's basically what I am looking for. Moving on to the 4-hour chart. On the 4-hour, I don't necessarily have any long-term analysis on here, so we'll just stick this to the daily chart. Moving on to volatility 75, I am not trading this actively right now. Taking a bit of a break, so we can see that we've got this demand zone in here. We've got this break of market structure. There's our weekly low, there's our weekly high. Very simple, right? So we'll expect this coming off this demand zone. Ideally, we would want to see this revisit this level here and then make a decision about what it wants to do from there. So ideally, that is what's meant to happen. Looking at the daily chart, looking at the daily chart, we can clearly see, okay, price has broken the structure here to the downside, right? We can see that that push, pulled back, that's a lower high, and pushed again from there. Now what I'm actually expecting to see happening right now, as price has done what it's done right here, in the fact that it's pushed up and it's come back and it's looking like it's most likely going to come above this high, right? So somewhere above here, and then maybe go to the downside from around there, right? If not slightly higher, right, before it goes down from around there. So very simple in terms of the volatility indices. Apologies if I didn't cover as much as I generally do. As I did mention, I am on my way out. So I said, let me do this video and let me try and schedule it and get it out so that you have this to reference. What I will do, however, is I will do a follow-up video, perhaps on Wednesday. Not perhaps, I will do it on Wednesday, a follow-up video on Wednesday morning, which will sort of be like a midweek. And that will basically highlight anything else that I might have left out of this initial video. I hope this has been informative and educational. Until next time, it has been a pleasure as always to share with you guys, and I am wishing you a blessed and a profitable trading week.